All right, welcome back to another Perspectives podcast. We're back. We're back another day, another time. I remember last time we talked about sharing our experiences after we came back from our trip from China. Guess what? We're back. That's what we're saying. We're back. We're excited. Before we move forward, I just want to say that we're recording today at the house.
Yeah.
So you might hear some rain in the background. You might hear the puppy banner barking. So if you could just excuse us for that, but we'll do our best. And yeah,
man, just trying to make this thing happen.
We're trying to make it happen as best as we can. You know, sometimes you have to improvise, and so we're glad to be able to do that today. But man, we're back.
We're freaking back, man.
Where did we go? Where did we go?
Dude, back from the other side of the world.
Man.
Had the opportunity, both of us, separately, to
Yeah.
go over to China, but we were able to meet up for a little bit, just chop it up, hang out. So it's crazy, man.
It was so crazy because like I didn't even know he was going until maybe like a couple weeks beforehand.
Same.
We were at church just talking one day after a young adult service, and then you told me how you were going to China, and I was like, what? When are you going to China? What for? And I remember Chase was like, I'm just going for fun. And so I decided to ask, when are you going? And as soon as he told me which week he was going to be there, I just started freaking out because that was the same week that I was going to be there as well.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like same for me, because I booked that ticket back. I think it was beginning of February, and then a week and a half, 2 weeks after I booked it, we were over at Gateway Young Adults, just hanging out. Told you I was going over to China, and you were like, "Hey, man, like." Me too. I'm like, bro.
Yeah.
Come on, dude. That's crazy. And so definitely just something God worked together.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Definitely something that's unintended, but there's just a way of those things happening, man. It's crazy.
Like you can't even make that up. Like that doesn't even, like you couldn't have planned it better. You know, it was just crazy actually being there. And then when I saw him in the flesh, I was like, oh, this is really happening now.
Exactly.
You know, because we were trying to figure out like, okay, which day can I come? Because where did you fly to?
Yeah, man. So I flew into Beijing.
Okay.
And
I was staying in Shanghai. So we'll get into that some more. But yeah, go ahead.
But yeah, and so whenever I booked that flight, and realized you were over there, like definitely just knew how to take advantage of the opportunity to go down there, because it's not every day you get to see like one of your bros on the other side of the world. And so luckily those flights over in China from Beijing to Shanghai are not very expensive, and so fit within the budget, and was able to go down there and just hang out for a couple days, and just hopefully see some future potential for some things we have over there.
Man. Yeah, I mean it's kind of like you said, seeing a familiar face. You're in a completely new culture, a completely different environment, and it's just like, man, I'm far, far, far away from home. You know, I felt like that a lot of times, but it wasn't so much that I was uncomfortable or anything, but just that realization that, wow, I'm really far away from home. Exactly. I can't take the next bus and go home. I can't drive my way home. I would literally have to fly. It was a 15-hour flight for me. I don't know.
Yeah, mine was about 13 and a half.
13 hours?
And like for me, it was the furthest away that I had been from home. And I mean, I've been all over the world. I mean, over to Europe, down to Latin America. But that was like the longest flight that I've had, the furthest away that I've been from home here in the DFW area. And so it's crazy. And I mean, I know for you specifically, like not having gone outside of the country for
17 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so having that opportunity was amazing.
Yeah.
But I know for you specifically, your opportunity was pretty cool. So do you want to talk a little bit about just kind of how the opportunity came up and why you went over there?
Yeah, I mean, I'll get into that. It was such so at the beginning of the year, I have a friend that I went to college with, and she called me maybe around 3:30 in the morning, and I just happened to be up because I heard the phone ring. So I answered the phone. I'm like, hello? And so we're talking. She goes, hey, my church is having a youth conference. Is this something that you would want to come and share and speak at? And so she's originally from Texas, one of the cities in Texas. So I'm thinking, okay, I know her city is about a couple hours away. So It's 3:30 in the morning. I was like, you know what? Let me just say yes,
Yeah.
and then I'll work it all out in the morning.
Yeah. By the
So
way, shout out to Ariel
oh
Flores.
yes,
So
Ariel, the legend, for coming through for us. We'll get into that some more, but yeah. So she was like, "Yeah, I want you to come out. I think you'd be great, and all these things." So I was like, "Sure, why not? God gives you an opportunity, you take it."
yeah.
And so I was like, "By the way, how far is your city from the Dallas Fort Worth area?" And then she starts laughing on the other line, and she says, "It's a 14-hour flight." I'm like, "Wait, what did you say?" And so at this point, I'm like wide awake now. You know,
yeah.
I got energy out of nowhere. She goes, "No, I want you to come to China." And I just kind of stopped. The first thing that came to my mind, I don't even have a passport. How am I going to get to China? You know, and so that's basically kind of how I went. And that's part of the reason why I went. The church that she works at over there was having
Yeah,
a
which
camp,
it's
um,
Shanghai International Church.
international. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're having a they were having a camp there, and so they had speakers for the children, for the young adults, and then the adults. And I happened to be the one for the young adults. So it was such an amazing opportunity. Never in my wildest dreams, or what, I don't even remember. I've always loved China and Asia in general, the people, the culture, how
Yeah.
much they've influenced me. I know that's always been a place that I've wanted to go. But to see how I was able to go there and what I was doing there, I mean, it was just,
Yeah.
I still think about it, man.
Yeah. And how you were able to connect a lot of the things that God's done here in terms of how you serve the community here,
Yeah,
specifically young adults
yeah,
and the small groups that
for
you lead
sure.
through that, connecting that experience with this opportunity
Yeah,
and having that be sort of the gateway to be able to have this experience
yeah,
and being able to be the vessel that God impacted their lives through.
yeah. I mean, it's such an honor. I remember standing in front of the kids, the young adults, they're not like babies.
yeah.
Uh, I remember standing in front of them, just letting them know, "Hey, I'm not this special guy. You know, I'm not this special guy. This can be you. You know,
Yep.
God uses anybody that He wants to. He chooses anyone that He wants to. So, just at that moment, at that place where you just like, God, my life, I'm giving it to this. How this might look like, I might not know. I might not be able to explain everything that's going on, but I know it's you. You're with me throughout every single step of the way, and then you're opening up opportunities like this. You know, I remember looking at all the kids there and just thinking, I'm in China right now. Like I just kept saying that
Yeah.
over and over and over again because it really hit me where I was, and
Yeah,
it
man.
was such a awesome opportunity. But how was that for you? How did you end up there?
I wish my opportunity was something that was as I don't know, cool or like unique as yours, but really mine just kind of how it came up. I get flight alerts from Scott's Cheap Flights, so
Yeah.
shout out to Scott's Cheap Flights. If you aren't signed up for their free email subscription, go do that right now.
Mm,
And really, what it does is just send you emails for cheap flights
yeah.
a couple times a day, and I mean every day I get flight alerts to like $400 flights to Greece or like
Wow.
$300 flights down to Lima.
Wait, what's that called? I'm gonna look that up
Yeah, bro,
too.
Scott's Cheap Flights.
Scott's Chief Flight.
And
Okay.
so, and every day I get basically these emails for places I've always wanted to go to,
Yeah.
or places that I have a like specific connection with. Like for Lima, for instance, having gone down there before. And one day, middle of January, get this flight alert to for $300 flights over to Beijing,
Yeah.
and don't know why, but there was just a really strong desire in my heart to go over there, um, and to look into that offer. And it was crazy because it was never something where I had, unlike you, where I had really had that desire to go over there.
Yeah.
And so it was really unique and something that just stood out to me at that point. And so reached out to Grayson
Yeah.
and reached out to a couple of our other friends to see if anybody wanted to go there. But unfortunately, none of that worked out for their schedules. And
Mm,
so from there, God just was continuing to just put that desire on my heart. And so Super Bowl Sunday weekend was continuing to pray through it, and that Friday actually before the weekend, was talking with one of my buddies, Luis Rodriguez, at work, and he just threw out this suggestion, like, "Hey man, like why don't you just travel over there by yourself?" And I was
Yeah.
like, "Bro, like no
Yeah.
way, man! Like
Yeah.
I've never taken like a completely solo trip before. I've never been over to Asia, and so it's
Mm.
something I was kind of scared about and didn't
Yeah.
even consider from the start." And so that weekend was continuing to just pray through the trip and the decision, and got a word from the Lord saying, if you expect next year to be ready to go on a trip
Yeah.
where you're leading a group of people, you need to first go on a trip where you're specifically just following me,
Yeah.
so that you can learn discipline and control. Because how are you going to be able to make proper decisions and control a group of 20 plus young adults if you can't control yourself?
Yeah.
And that just was a crazy realization, and an amazing revelation from the Lord, because I never saw a solo trip as like a precursor
Right. To leading others.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so, and next year, just kind of for the organization's plans, like this year we have 3 partner mission trips
Right.
with different organizations, but next year is whenever we're going to be having our first independent trips.
Mm.
And so it's just crazy to see how God kind of worked that timing together for
Right.
like the timing of, the Beijing opportunity paired with when we feel like we're supposed to lead these independent trips.
Right.
And we're going to be leading the trips. And so it was something where got that word, and I was kind of like Gideon for a minute, where I was like, "Yo, God, I don't know if this is you,
Right.
so I'm gonna put a blanket out,
Yeah. Yeah.
and if we put dew on there,
Right.
then we'll see." But yeah, basically, I was just like, "God, I don't know, but if the flight prices are still the same price on Wednesday morning,
Mm.
then I'll do it." And Lord behold, it was that same price Wednesday morning,
Yeah.
and went ahead with my fingers shaking
Yeah.
on my phone, bought it, and it was crazy. And so yeah, that was really just opportunity that kind of came up for me,
Yeah.
and it's crazy. Like what I know for me, like there was a lot of things leading up to the trip that God did. Was there anything specifically for you kind of leading up to the trip, like things that God did in your heart or in your life?
Oh man, I felt like just trying to go there with the mindset of, Lord, I don't even know what you're going to do while I'm here, while I'm
Yeah.
at this place, but whatever you're going to do, I just want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
I feel like that's probably a good way of summarizing it all, because it's some people even have a hard time going to a different city in the US by themselves.
Yeah.
Going overseas, the place you don't know anybody, you're there by yourself. You may not really be too familiar with the area.
Yeah.
Like in your case, I mean, you were in Beijing by yourself. And I remember seeing all your pictures, even the ones you're still posting, and you made friends there.
Yeah, man.
You made connections there, and it's so crazy. I was thinking about it. I was thinking about it. A lot of people that I met there, I might have never seen them.
Exactly.
If it wasn't for God opening up that opportunity. But you want to share about some of the people that you kind of came across where you were staying?
Yeah, man. So yeah, just while I was in Beijing, and I mean, even while we were in Shanghai together, just God kept just introducing me to people that the only way it was possible was Him. And so I guess to kind of get to the hostel story, I guess I'll need to explain kind of like what happened, kind of pre going over there, to really show just kind of the goodness of God in this and the timing. And so for that, actually, cliffhanger, it ended up missing the original flight over there.
Yeah, this is a story.
And it was crazy. Like I've been over.
Wait, but how did you feel when you've been preparing for this trip and then you missed the flight? Because I remember you called me and we talked, and I felt bad for you. I was like, man, that is, because I think I was
Yeah.
leaving the next day.
Yeah, you were leaving
Yeah,
like the next
the
day
next
or in a
day.
couple days,
Yeah,
and yeah, like I realistically thought at that point that that I wasn't going over there,
wow.
and that I had just missed that opportunity. Like I'm getting goosebumps right now, even thinking about it.
Yeah,
But so kind of what happened was I one of the things that I definitely struggle with like throughout my life as a sort of consistent theme is pride.
mm,
Um, it's something where I think at times that I can't make mistakes.
right.
Think at times that I have everything under control,
Mm,
and from there, don't have proper preparation for things.
right.
And so, kind of what happened in this example was the couple weeks leading up, or geez, probably the month leading up to the trip. I was really prideful, had got myself way overcommitted and way too busy,
Yeah,
to where I hadn't looked at that flight in easily over a month.
yeah,
And so it gets to be that day, and I go to check in for my flight at around 2:30. It says, "Oh, it's too late to check in your flight." I'm like, "What are you talking
Wait,
about?"
guys,
Like,
you have to understand. He's at the airport. This is not on his phone somewhere. He's at the
yeah,
airport.
yeah,
The adrenaline. You're about to get on the plane and fly overseas, and then you hear this.
yeah.
Like,
And so then I kind of look at the flight details again because I'm not understanding what's going on, and I see the flight time was 15:10,
mm,
and I was like, wait, if I know right, 15:10 is 3:10,
yeah,
and I thought my flight was at 7.
yeah,
And so yeah, basically got the flight time wrong
yeah,
and was scrambling all over the place. And so for that, it was something like honestly, like my conversation with you that same day
yeah,
was the only time that I had talked with anyone like within that 24 hours missing
yeah.
that flight.
Wow.
And so, but it was crazy because that was the first time in a while that I had extended time with the Lord,
Mm,
and God really knew how to get my attention,
yeah,
because I'd been so focused on other things, so focused on the organization, so focused on some of the blessings that was coming with the trip.
for sure.
Because one of the things was actually on my flight over there, I was going
Mm,
to have a day layover in Vancouver.
mm,
And I have an old college teammate of mine who lives up in Vancouver.
yeah.
And so I was going to be able to chill with him. But as well, the Stars were playing the Canucks in Vancouver
Oh
the
wow.
night that we were there.
What a trip.
And so for me,
Yeah.
I was like, man, this is crazy. Like, going to be able to do this
Right,
and
right, right.
see my bro and go to the game. And it was something where the Lord just gave me a word whenever I missed a flight, where He was saying, I took this blessing away because you stopped being obedient.
Mm,
And that's reality sometimes.
it really
Is
is.
sometimes whenever we're not walking in the plan that God has for us, these sort of things happen to where God knows what it takes to get your attention,
Yeah,
and intentionally does that so that the fullness and the goodness of what He has for us can come back into our lives.
for sure.
And so for that whole Saturday night and all Sunday morning, it was extended time with the Lord that I hadn't had in a long time. And
Mm,
so going on a couple-hour walk, journaling and reading, and praying for hours at Starbucks. The next
mm,
morning, going to all the services at Gateway that
mm,
I possibly could.
yeah,
And shout out to a couple of friends there that I was just able to talk with, and that they were able to pray over me for this decision. And one of the things I was wrestling with during that was, okay, God, like, is this something where you're keeping me from going on this trip because I'm not ready to go on this trip yet?
yeah,
Or are there just certain things that you need to teach me so that this trip can be everything that you meant it to be?
right.
And so I was praying through it, and was looking at other flight options, and really just by just praying through it, the countenance that God gave me, some of the encouragement that was given to me through friends, and the fact that like the flight that I had to buy fit within the budget for the year. It was something where I felt confident that God still wanted me to go over there. And so bought the flight, flew over there, which was really cool. It ended up being a direct flight,
Yeah,
and it was cheaper than all the other options like throughout the year. And so
right.
there's just a number of things there that God did. And so when I get there, I go to the hostel that I was staying at
Yeah.
first time ever.
Well, what is a hostel for those for people that
Yeah,
may not know? Because I didn't really know what it was until like you explained it to me or some others explained it to me too.
yeah, and so that was the first time I was ever staying in a hostel, so I didn't really know what to expect.
Yeah.
But I had friends who had stayed in hostels in Europe in different areas. Really, what it is where you have almost like a dorm style kind of hotel, to where you have just kind of six people,
Wow.
co-ed in a room with bunk beds,
Yeah.
and it's really cheap. It makes it just really cheap because
Yeah.
you have people staying in the same room. And so it's a really unique way that is really forcing you to meet people,
Yeah.
and makes you encounter those situations, to because it's so easy if you were to stay in a hotel
Yeah.
to just kind of be there, go see the sights and different things like that, and not really immerse yourself in the culture.
Right.
But whenever you're in those instances where you're feet away from people all across the globe, because I was staying with people from like France, Switzerland,
Wow.
Korea, Taiwan.
So you're getting like a global perspective just being there, being around different people.
Exactly. And so, and it's something that forces you into that.
Yeah.
And typically hostels are very genuine in the culture, and so it was a unique experience. But going back to your original question,
Yeah.
some of the people that I was able to meet over there, there's one of my buddies, Jack Chen, who's from Taiwan, who was in the room that I was staying in.
Yeah.
And it's really cool. He's a 23-year-old guy from Taiwan, he's the first person that I met over there, and he's in university studying Chinese and Christian history.
Mm.
And so I'm just like, God, there's nothing else that this could be but you. The
Right.
fact that the first person I meet over there, in a place where I didn't expect to meet any other Christians,
Yeah.
is studying Christian history, is a Christian, and is someone that I can talk with and get encouragement with throughout this trip.
Yeah.
And so it's really cool as well, because he was up there hanging with about 10 of his friends who were studying at Peking University in Beijing.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the days that we spent up in Beijing, they were able to tour us around, show us some of the good places. And so I was able to even meet them. And it was just a really great experience being able to have those people just kind of, I don't want to say make things easy on me, because it was
Yeah.
still difficult, because there was the language barriers.
Oh yeah.
But it was still crazy. I mean, they were able to speak English that was one of the things I was very shocked about, was how many people spoke English
Yeah.
over there.
Yeah. Me
But
too.
but it was still something where it really was confidence building and encouraging to have them along the ride the whole
Mhm.
time. And so it was a really really cool experience. And now having connections in Taiwan, in Beijing,
Mm.
in Australia is amazing. And so I know you. What are some of the people that you got to meet
Oh
over at the
man,
conference?
I got to meet a. There were some pastors from Malaysia,
Yep.
and so they were the adults pastors, and that was just hearing about how churches in Malaysia and the people, and asking questions because you're in a different place. You're in China, out of all places, and you want to be able to absorb and get as much as you can. So just asking them questions, asking them questions about how life is over there, how life is over there for believers, how they just see the world
Yeah, 'cause it's a
over
lot
there.
different.
Yeah, it's so different, and so from Malaysia, I got to connect with some ministers from Australia,
Yep.
and and I also got to connect with people from that were at the church, that were from all over the world pretty much. So basically, kind of how that happens is a lot of people, let's say you work for Coca-Cola or something, for example, and then Coca-Cola sends you to Shanghai for, let's say they have a division there or whatever it may be, and you're a believer, and you want to go to a church, and so you go to that church, right? Because from my understanding, from what I was explained, it seemed that local and native Chinese people weren't able to go to church with foreigners, right? So there was that separation almost. So all the foreigners went to church with foreigners. So at the church where I was at speaking and sharing, um, it didn't really dawn on me until I'll say maybe like the last day when the young adults pastor that was there was kind of praying over me before I left. The kids, I keep calling them kids, they all, when they were praying for me, he said, God, I just thank you that you give him the opportunity to speak to nations.
Yeah.
And it really didn't hit me until he said that. It almost felt like God kind of hid that from me. Like in my mind, it didn't even click until he said that. And I was like, wow, this church really represents so many different nations,
Yeah.
so many different people from all over the world. I remember meeting a guy there from Congo, like I am. And that was so shocking. He's been there for 32 years. Um, just seeing him, talking to him, I was like, hey, I'm from Congo. He's from Congo. And it's just, the world is so big now. The world is so big. And I feel like we're getting better at relating to each other.
Yeah.
We're getting better at communicating. And so whenever you're at a place where diversity is celebrated, we're at a place where it's an international church.
Yeah.
Being in a place like that, you're able to meet so many different people. And you sit back, you're like, God, how did I even end up here?
Seriously, man.
How did I end up here?
Yeah, because I know that hit me like a good frequently because with missing the first flight and still going over there, I the gratefulness that I had over there. I don't think would have been there if I didn't miss that first flight. And so they were just time and time again, whether it was like the hostel that I was staying at was a fourth of a mile away from the Forbidden City. And so whenever I get out of the subway and get up, I see Tiananmen Square right there, the opening gate to the Forbidden City, just amazing places that overwhelmed me with just the thought of holy crap, I'm actually here. And so it's crazy how God can keep reminding us of that and keeps us in that proper countenance and perspective on those types of trips, because I know there's been trips where I've been on where I just kind of fall into kind of okay, I guess this is kind of normal now.
Right.
I guess if I just do my everyday kind of routine in a way, I'll just be able to get through this. But I know it sounds like for you, and especially for me on this trip, is something where God just continually just snapped me back into this is a precious experience, and this is a big deal that you're over here. And so it's crazy how he does that. And so I know for me, one of the really cool things, being able to talk to Ariel about it, was how almost how we have misconceptions for what religion is over there and the different laws in the country. So would you want to kind of cover that?
Yeah. It's I know so you have I'm sure you have different religions there, which is to be expected. And just the people there are so, they're so driven, they you can see it in their children, just how they raise up their kids to really go after things, and they want excellence and demand excellence, and the kids really work hard. The kids really, really work hard because they want to succeed in life. I think that's something that I really, because I always heard about it, but actually being there and some of the kids that I got to talk to or just hear from their stories and actually seeing how, these kids really do. Let me share a story that really just, it blew my mind, because at the church, so with the young adults where I was speaking, I walk in, I remember seeing a keyboard there. A keyboard. I remember seeing drums. There were some mics. And so I'm thinking, okay, maybe they got a worship team or something. So I was like, okay, so who's going to be leading worship? And I remember someone telling me, oh, they are. I was like, okay, all right, it's going to be interesting.
You'll see how this can go.
Man, I was blown away. The simple fact that usually, over here, from what I've seen, a lot of times, during worship, you usually see, there's a guy maybe on the bass, there's a girl, maybe she's playing the guitar, or there's usually a lot of guy involvement, in on the choir or whatever it may be, and then there's like girl singers or just different things. But it was just so interesting seeing everybody that led worship. All the girls led worship, but that wasn't the amazing part to me. The amazing part was they all played the piano. They all were singing. They all start playing the drums, and they would teach each other, and they would just pick it up right there. And I was just in awe watching them just operate. Like
Yeah.
one of them would play, and the other would say, "How do you do that?" And then she'll show her, and then she'll go up there and she starts doing it. And I'm like, these girls are talented.
Yeah.
That was such a awesome thing to see. Just how hard they work, and,
Yeah.
and you really see how that pays off.
Yeah. And it's really cool, like being able to talk with Ariel about it.
Yeah,
Like the mix of being able to get different people involved,
yeah,
but as well needing to take into account like really like the strategy for how the church can share the gospel.
yeah,
Because I know like one of the things Ariel talked about was our understanding of like what freedom of a religion or lack of freedom of religion over there
yeah,
is almost kind of like a misconception.
yeah,
It was something where over here, I think often we kind of think, oh, like the government is just really oppressive towards Christians.
hmm,
Like anything Christianity, just like, no, like they're going to shut down.
yeah,
And so, in talking with her, from what I kind of understood over
yeah,
there, was in terms of like religion,
hmm,
the only two Christian religions that are like officially recognized by,
yeah.
by the government are is like Methodist and
Methodist and
Catholic.
Catholic, yeah,
And so there are some like some other churches over there, but a lot of times like those are the two prominent churches over
yeah,
there. But as well, one of the laws is, if I remember right, is that the only time you can share like your religion or faith with someone
hmm,
is if they ask first. Like
yeah.
you can't go up there on the street and
Oh no, there's definitely
yeah,
not a lot of street evangelism because that's almost like disrespectful in a sense.
yeah,
You weren't doing that. Yeah, kind of like you said. Whenever you're sharing your faith, it has to be in a one-on-one setting, kind of like we're doing right now.
yeah,
You definitely can't hold these big rallies that we can do here. I'm not sure. When you're in high school, you have FCA. They'll
yeah.
come and then they'll have all these big things. People get saved. I'm not sure if they have a lot of things like that over there.
Yeah, yeah,
So
I would think not,
no, definitely not.
and it's something that's unique because
Yeah,
I think like for me, like I left, like even though there are like some restrictions on it,
yeah,
from what she was saying is like the only time the government really interferes with anything is if a church directly like criticizes in anything that the government does.
yeah,
And so for me, like even with that like restriction being
hmm,
there, it was something where I left like encouraged
yeah.
for like what God's doing in that country,
Oh yeah,
and like what like the churches that are over there are able to do, because I thought just everything was like outright condemned over
yeah,
there and pushed down, but there is room for like believers over
hmm,
there to do some good
for
things,
sure.
and for God to really move, and I know that's something that Ariel just said time and time again in the couple days I was down there with y'all,
Yeah.
was that the people there are like hungry for the
Oh
word
yeah.
and for the spirit, and God's really doing some great things like in that country,
Yeah.
and so that was one of the things that like I was really encouraged about. um,
I mean, that was one of my my takeaways as well. Because similar to you, I was like, how does this even look? And just being there, I could see, you know, people definitely are finding ways. God is making a way for people to be able to share, for people to be expressive about their faith. It's not. It kind of makes you take a step back and appreciate the liberty that you have in America. But then again, at the same time, you realize, man, we're not doing a lot with the liberty that we have
exactly.
in America.
Yeah,
And just in seeing how they were approaching it, it's so different. Just approaching sharing your faith and growing and all these things. And we
yeah,
always hear a lot about underground churches, and
yeah,
lots of time that comes. Someone was explaining to me, comes from the fact that since the government kind of has restrictions on certain things that you might be able to say, for example, on the churches that are sanctioned, because not every church is sanctioned, um, lots of people decide, well, we don't really want these restrictions, so let us go the underground route and
Yeah.
just be low key, if you could say, about it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and I think yeah, you're right on point there. And so it is interesting. And it was like a really valuable experience to be
yeah,
able to interact with like the churches over there and understand kind of what their lives are,
yeah,
and kind of grows our gratefulness for like for us over here. And so
yeah,
I know something else that we wanted to kind of transition into with this, in terms of like the differences between like America and China, was just some of like the cultural differences
oh, yeah,
that we noticed. Like I know one for me was, you kind of hear, or see videos that people in China, there's no personal space.
mm,
Like that's something that I definitely kind of felt, and was something where it took me a little while to get used to that,
yeah,
just because there's so many of them over there. Just sometimes on the metro,
mm,
sometimes just on the street in touristy areas, it can be uh, quite crowded.
yeah,
And it was something where, for me at first, it was a little difficult to get used to. But something that God really showed me over there was, how can I say it? Almost the entitlement or arrogance side to personal space.
yeah,
It's something where over here, there's definitely a part of giving someone personal space that is kind of respectful,
right, right.
and not wanting to make other people feel
Uncomfortable,
uncomfortable.
yeah,
But oftentimes, like whenever we demand our own personal space,
yeah,
there's this one perspective of like, yeah, like I do just kind of want to feel comfortable,
hmm,
but as well, like, and this is just a thought, like I'm still trying to break this down, is, we almost feel like entitled to that personal space,
yeah,
and it's something that like we deserve as humans, and
hmm,
is almost like this like prideful type, outlook, to whereas like the Chinese people over there,
hmm,
like they understand there's a ton of people, and so they want to accommodate others by
hmm,
being willing to just kind of be crowded, and they don't take it as some sort of offense
yeah,
by not giving someone like personal space.
yeah. I actually didn't get to experience the metro life.
Yeah,
Being in Shanghai, I think it's one of the more populated cities over there. And man, I didn't get to talk about that. I will get into the cultural differences,
yeah,
but that place was beautiful. I remember first
yeah,
getting there. We landed in a different city where the airport was. I can't remember. Sorry, forgive me. And just driving, I noticed I feel like they used every space they could because they
yes,
had apartments just
yeah.
everywhere because it's such a busy city.
Everything is very ordered.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And even with that, like they value the beauty, like
yeah.
whether it's like the gardens or the temples,
Oh man,
the zoos, like anything.
they were taking care of the land and just try to utilize and maximize all the space that they had, to accommodate more and more and more people. But just the city was beautiful. I remember being there the day Chase was there. We went to, is it the Bund?
Yeah, the Bund area,
Oh man,
amazing.
that was amazing. We have pictures there, and we have some great stories that we might get to later. But yeah, some of the differences that I personally noticed as well was just um, me being, someone from Africa. You would guess I'm black.
Yep.
I guess you could say, or which I am. Being there and kind of just having people stare at you because not even like in a bad way, but it wasn't as normal for them to see. So that's something I
Yeah.
had to understand, right?
Yeah, that's something that I
It's
was going to get into. Is like
yeah,
it was by far the least diverse place in terms of ethnicity
yeah,
that I've ever been to.
yeah. I haven't felt like that in a while where I knew that I stood out. But for me, I was okay with it,
Exactly.
because it wasn't nothing bad. Nobody gave me a hard time or anything. They were just amazed. We have cool stories about that. But I
Yeah.
think something that I noticed was people wouldn't look me in the eyes all the time.
Yeah.
I thought that was strange at first. So sometimes, this guy walking around, I felt like a tourist most of the time. I had my camera, I was taking pictures and doing things like that. But I would notice sometimes people wouldn't look me in the eyes. And I know here in America that's such a big thing, looking people in the eyes,
Yeah.
especially when you're talking to them, communicating with them, and
Yeah.
over there, I felt like that was definitely not something you did all the time.
Yeah, and I think
Um,
something that Ariel was, if I remember right, that she kind of commented on, or maybe it was Jack or one of our friends, was
yeah,
that eye contact is seen as like almost like a like form of like disrespect,
yeah,
especially to elders, is
yeah,
something where if you have someone who you want to respect and someone who is an elder, you want to like you want to show respect to them, and one way of doing that is like kind of not giving like direct eye contact a
hmm,
lot, and so especially like really like I'm sure related to you because since they don't see very many white people
hmm,
or black people,
yeah,
it's something where it kind of going to your previous point was like it's a pretty cool experience for them,
yeah,
and it's something that they value and it's
yeah,
something that they get excited about, so they want to show you that respect, and like the eye contact
yeah.
may not be there.
No, I actually I was sitting at dinner, having dinner with some of the people from the church, and I kind of had shared some of my experiences of how people were staring at me and stuff. And the way they broke it down for me was some of the people may not see people like you and I on a regular basis. So when they do, in a sense, they want to be friends with you. They want to befriend you, because to some of the people that might be a cool thing to befriend somebody from America or someone that's black, white, whatever it may be.
Yep.
And so that's kind of what drove, some of the things we'll probably be getting into later.
Yeah, and
Uh,
so yeah, I know a couple other things that I realized or that I think I saw was related to like I think the people as a whole,
mhm.
and I think it relates to like the not being a very diverse place. It was one of the most welcoming places
Oh
I've
man,
ever been to
what?
because they don't like since they don't see people who look like us very much.
Yeah,
It's something where they're excited to see you and they want to show you their country and treat you well.
right.
There were so many people that I encountered like on the subway or just on the street that were so respectful. Everyone in the tourist areas, we're
Mhm.
normally over here, we're just kind of like, I'm tired of all these people.
Right,
They were so welcoming and so respectful,
right.
which I think comes from a mix of like us being a little bit different, but
Hmm.
as well just their culture
Yeah.
being kind of one of respect. And then as well, kind of related to that was they had their, I don't know if they still have it, but their one child law
Mm.
that they had for a long time.
Yeah.
I think that has created a, and I don't want to disrespect our culture,
Mm.
but I think it's created this feeling of our kid, like my kid is so valuable
Yeah.
that the relationship between like the parents and the kids, I think is like a lot deeper over there than
Hmm.
it is over here because the parents realize like this is my one and only child.
Mm.
Like this is like I got to pour everything into this kid. I got to make sure they're protected. I got to make sure like everything that I can do for them to succeed
Yeah.
is there. And so it creates like this value of children that like that is higher than what we have here. And
Yeah.
so because it was crazy like seeing on the subway they that like the kid I had numerous interactions with um kids from 4 to 10 years old where they would see me like a white guy and they would try to practice their English
Mm.
that they speak in school.
Yeah.
And so it was, and it's something whenever the kids try to do that, everyone on the subway sees that as like, oh, like this
Yeah.
kid, like it's so cute and it's amazing. And like we want to witness this because they see that value within
Right.
kids. And so I think like maybe that's something you experienced with being able to interact.
Yeah. No, it was such I mean, I really feel like the parents there really invest in their children, like you mentioned. Um, like, yeah, they did really, really invest in their children. Once again, I said once again, but I want us to um be able to understand that as we're sharing, we were in two different cities in China, and this is the perspective that we got. Our minds are kind of changing, our ideals are changing, and we don't want to generalize the whole country, obviously. So that's why we're just sharing our perspective. I just
Exactly.
kind of want to put that out there. But yes, I really believe that, like you said, they really value family and their children there and just
Yeah.
pouring into them and that desire to see your children succeed. Um, you know,
It's so present.
it is, it really is. And I feel like family dynamics there, it's so important. And man, some of the major takeaways for me just being there
Yeah.
was, first of all, just how appreciative I was for the opportunity,
Amen.
how appreciative I was for the opportunity, for the people that I was able to connect and meet. Um, and that was a siren.
Oh, sorry, guys.
Yeah, we'd say there might be some small things, but yeah, just some of the things I was able to appreciate there. Definitely be the appreciation, the seeing the community there,
Yeah.
seeing how big and vast the world is, and how sometimes we think the world evolves around us.
Yeah.
But whenever you go into a different culture, a different nation, so this is my third country going to, you know, from
Yeah.
Congo to the U.S. now, China, and just seeing differences.
Yeah.
You know, I really appreciated that, and just also appreciating what God is doing in the midst of the people over there.
Yeah.
And just this is such a memorable trip for me. Like I could never forget it. You know, I
Yeah.
could never forget being there. You know, it was that impactful for me.
Same.
You know, and what are some of the takeaways for you?
Yeah, I think just going off of that, like this trip will always be one that I look back on as like a special trip.
Yeah, because I
Like,
mean, you've been on plenty trips,
yeah,
mission trips, and different things like
yeah.
that.
Like I think this was somewhere around like my 12th or 13th country that I've been to.
Wow.
And it was something where this trip will always be one that I look back on and get goosebumps. And so a couple of the like big things that I think I took away, which one I already talked about was like the whole
Yeah.
pride thing,
Oh yeah.
and realizing that I need the Lord in life,
Yeah.
and especially in coming to these trips,
For sure.
and I need to give Him the proper attention. Um, Something else was that really like I think one of the things that made this trip special was this being my first solo trip
Yeah.
ever. And I would encourage everyone, like as a result of this trip, I would
Mhm.
encourage everyone to travel by themselves, like at least one
Yeah.
time. There was so many things that I was forced into doing that I normally don't do on trips.
Right.
And there's so many areas of myself that I think God revealed to me on this trip.
Hmm.
Whether it's not sticking to my, not becoming, how can I say it? Not becoming legalistic and sticking to my schedule that
Mm.
like I created.
Yeah.
Because the first time that I went off with like Jack and his friends to like tour around, I had something else planned that day.
Mm.
And if I would have fallen back into my same stubbornness, I would have missed the opportunity to like hang with them,
Yeah.
and develop those friendships. And so I think like whenever you go into these different areas, whenever you go into something that is unknown,
Hmm.
um, God reveals parts of yourself that I think first and foremost are like needed to
Yeah.
get through that trip
For sure.
experience, because each experience is different. Um, and it's something where we discover these parts of ourselves that we don't have to bring out, because if we're in everyday life,
Yeah.
like I look back with Abraham. It's something where God commanded him to leave his mother and father's
Yeah.
house
It's
and
crazy.
to go on an adventure.
Yeah. Pretty
And
much.
it was something where throughout that adventure,
Mm.
God showed him who he really was,
Right.
like who Abraham really was, who the Lord really was, and released like the full potential
Yeah.
that was in Abraham, and the plan that God had for his life. And so it's something where going into those places really unlocks parts of you
Yeah.
that might be kind of stored away in everyday life, and as well, like I wasn't lonely one time
Yeah.
on that whole trip,
Oh
which
yeah.
was something that I was kind of concerned about. And I feel like often, like especially, how can I say it? Comparing everyday life over here to what life was like on that trip,
Hmm.
it's there's times here where I do feel like lonely.
Yeah.
And over there, it was amazing that like God's presence was so evident,
Hmm.
and He just connected me with these people so that like I wouldn't kind
Yeah.
of feel that or struggle with that.
Yeah.
And then another big takeaway and another just encouragement for people especially Americans.
Hmm.
Like whatever you hear about China in the news
Hmm. Oh
or
man.
from people,
Yeah,
it just take it with a grain of salt
for sure.
because our experiences, especially mine, and I'm sure yours, like especially,
Yeah,
was something that was so different than what normal people say about China.
right.
And I think like their people, their culture are some of like the most misunderstood
Yeah.
people on the earth because it was something where like I had a good amount of family friends like the couple weeks before the trip
Hmm.
who were like why are you going over to China?
Yeah.
Like it's communist, it's dangerous,
Yeah.
like why are you doing this? And after coming back, it was something where it's just like no, like these people are welcoming.
Yeah.
It's not a dangerous place,
Yeah.
and it's a culture, it's a people that need to be experienced
Yeah.
and interacted with and celebrated. And
I mean,
so
it's so crazy because I had somebody that I knew that I met on the airport maybe 30 minutes before I boarded, and I saw her and I told her where I was going, and her face just changed. And that's basically pretty much
yeah,
what she told me, and I was like, "No, I'll be okay. I'll be back. You'll see me." And I remember being there and just asking people some of the questions, some of the things we hear all the time, like you mentioned about China, and I was just shocked from their responses, and I was like,
yeah,
wow. Like you said, you got to take things with a grain of salt. You
yeah,
got to go and experience things for yourself at times.
yeah.
Um,
And I would say like the last thing for like my big takeaways and my encouragement to other people was something that actually came up in a reading that I had a few months before the trip. Was asking yourself when was the last time that someone was astonished with your boldness?
mm,
It says in Acts 2, if I remember right, that the people were astonished by the boldness of
yeah,
Paul.
yeah,
And so many times we try to astonish others or make people wow with our knowledge
yeah,
or with our resources or whatever, and it's just like a lot of times it's the courage that the Spirit gives you
for sure.
that makes an impact with people,
Yeah,
and it's something where we need to grow that boldness and courage and test that on a frequent basis. And
mm,
and I think solo travel or just travel to other countries in general does that.
yeah,
And so I think something that like everyone who's listening to this can ask yourself is just like, when was the last time that I was bold?
yeah,
When was the last time that I stepped out in faith in the Lord so that He had to show up
mm,
outside of just me and my basic human abilities.
right.
But yeah, man, and
No, I mean,
so
I think that's really good. I mean, even with that, we have, like you mentioned earlier, we have a lot of trips even next year, and I know you have one to
yeah,
Costa Rica
yeah,
that you'll be going to soon, and I'm sure when you come back, we'll always have these podcasts and just talk about culture, especially the next couple of ones. Talk about cultures and diversities and some of the differences that we really just see. A
yeah,
lot of things we want to discuss.
yeah, and just
You
different
know,
topics
yeah.
that like God's put on our heart, and yeah, man, just I'm really excited for that trip
Yeah.
to Costa Rica. That'll be my fourth time down there, working with those missionaries. We work at a children's home down there,
Mm.
and this is a partnership between us and First Methodist Grapevine,
Okay.
which is the church I grew up going to. And so really excited for that trip. Really excited for that experience. And we'll have a meeting towards the end of the trip with some other people
Yeah.
to talk about the trip next year. And so yeah, man. Any kind of closing thoughts
Man,
for
I mean,
you?
I'm just excited to do more. I want
Yeah,
to go different places. I've always wanted to. Um, I never had the opportunity to, and then when I did, I was like, man, this is great. Obviously you can't travel throughout the whole year because people have to work and
yep,
handle different things. But like you said, solo travel or going with a group or mission trips or just different things and getting out of your own elements, and really just letting your mind be changed from you being somewhere and making up your mind then, versus just sitting back and hearing everything that people tell you. You're hearing all these crazy stories that we're sharing, due to the time, about China. But once you get out there or go somewhere else, even, and just like, wow, this is awesome. That's just some of my thoughts,
Yeah, and I would just say my last little bit of encouragement, which I think we're doing with this podcast, and it's something that I struggle with, is like every now and then just like sit down. Like I did it over in, I think it's the Yuyong Gardens in Shanghai. Is just sit down every now and then, and just reflect on kind of what God's doing in your life.
Yeah.
So often we get into the cycle of doing, that we can kind of lose that true perspective of of what God's doing. And I'm grateful we were able to do this,
for sure,
like with this podcast, and kind of just sit down, talk about the trip. But yeah, guys. So thank y'all so much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank y'all so much just for tuning in. We hope y'all just enjoyed the discussion and the conversation just about what the trip was like to us, and hopefully it encouraged y'all to maybe take a trip over to China here sometime soon. Ooh, reminder, if you want to go over to China, you need to get a visa.
Oh yeah, you need a tourist visa.
Yeah, because that was something as well, like God did that. That Josue wasn't aware of that. And just luckily through me going over there, we figured that out. Yeah, but little silly thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so if y'all have any thoughts, or if y'all have been over to China before, definitely leave a comment down below on what your experience was like over there. We'd love to just grow from your perspective and everything that you went through. As well, if you have any questions or anything like that about the trip, go ahead and email us, info@perspectivesww.org, or you could just go to our website, www.perspectivesworldwide.org. As well, we just hope that everything is just going great in life, just God's blessing you. And if you want to just follow us or on all of our social media, or all of our info and social media will be linked down below. Go ahead and give us a like on Facebook or a follow on Instagram. It'd be much appreciated. So that's it for today. We'd encourage you just to go serve people.
Yeah.
Go change your perspective and just grow in the Lord. So
for sure.
Much love.